We're back filming on a Sunday night to debrief on a crazy Week 18 and preview the NFL playoffs. It's all coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lee.
And I'm Michael Wiley, and we're the Fantasy Football Consultants.
Michael, we're going to announce all our winners, over $600 in prizes that we gave out, as well as our winners for the division prediction shows. But first, we've got to talk about a wild Week 18. Let's just get to it. Talk to me about your Raiders.
Hey, I'm right here outside Allegiant Stadium after the game, broadcasting live after what is a crazy atmosphere here in Las Vegas. The Raiders looked like they were happy to take the tie, and the Chargers said, nah, go ahead. We want you to kick a game-winning field goal. What an ending to Week 18. What an ending to the regular season. Ben Roethlisberger was thinking, I'm not going to be able to make the playoffs because the Chargers and Raiders are happy to tie. Wow.
Michael, one of the stupidest decisions by a head coach in the importance that I've seen in a while. The Raiders had already decided when they passed, when it was under 2 minutes, that they could run out the clock. And it looks like the Chargers were going to let them do that. It was 38 seconds left. And with 25 seconds, can you give me any reason whatsoever why the Chargers would call timeout? I don't even believe the Chargers would have increased their seeding if they would have won versus tied. The Raiders would, but not the Chargers. And I think the Raiders, because the Chargers called that timeout, I want you to comment on this. I think that was the only reason they called timeout with 1 or 2 seconds left to kick a field goal, which they really shouldn't have because it could have been blocked, right? They were in the playoffs, but more out of spite and knock the Chargers out. You tell me, what do you think?
I think you're overthinking it just a bit. What I would say, Brandon Staley, who, yes, is a little bit crazy, had a couple of crazy calls during the game. He's Mr. Analytics. Everything seems to be by this new analytics rules, which I think maybe works to some extent during a long regular season. But when it comes down to, play by play, you got to go with your gut. I think what he was doing there was saying, hey, we're trying to show that we're not just, agreeing to this tie that the Steelers were going to be upset about. And the right thing to do for the Raiders was to kick the field goal, not necessarily out of spite, but for seeding purposes. I think it's tougher to go into Kansas City and get a win than it is to go into Cincinnati. Yes, it's going to be tough either way.
No, I agree. I don't fault. The reality is the Raiders weren't going to kick a field goal.
No, they weren't. They were happy to take the tie at that point.
And there's no reason, you cannot tell me, there's no reason for the Chargers to call a timeout there. Please, people, put in the comment section and tell me I'm wrong and explain to me the reason why the Chargers would have to call a timeout there. There's no reason. They were going to be in the playoffs. The goal is not to win the game. The goal is to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, no, and you're right. Either way, they would have been the 6th seed because of they would have had up on the Raiders there. So it was a huge mistake by Brandon Staley. Looking back, the Chargers and the Raiders are both a little bit decimated after this game. So I really feel bad for them. Raiders have to go play Saturday night or Saturday morning, against Cincinnati. So it's going to be tough, especially with the loss of Phylon there. But man, what an ending. What a season for the Raiders. I would love to talk about just that, but that's not what the show's about. So
hey, brag. My Seahawks, 7-10, horrible, disappointing season. I'm glad that one of our teams got into the playoffs, and congratulations to your Raiders. I want to break down and talk a little bit about the playoff weekend, but first, real quick, congratulations to everyone who took our $600 NFL Survivor winner, Sean Adams, and then all of our NFL DFS winners, Michael Spencer, Fernando Ramirez, Rocky Patel, A+ Edmonds, Brad Fowler, and Robert Alderman. If you're on this list and you haven't contacted, because there's just 1 or 2 people who haven't, you better contact us soon if you want your money. But we, Michael, nailed the NFC North let's do a quick look back on this. The Green Bay Packers winning the division again. I'm going to put Minnesota second, the Chicago Bears third, and the easiest call maybe of any division is to say that the Detroit Lions will finish last. Because I like two teams coming out of the NFC West, and I like the Saints' chances, I am going, and because of how difficult the schedule is for this division, I am not going to have a wild card team. And strangely enough, that is exactly what Michael Wiley thinks. So now, Aaron, maybe I should rethink it because I'm agreeing with Michael Wiley. All right, had to.
Yeah, Eric, I really appreciate that. We saw that it worked out just fine for you, and I think if we back and did a little bit of revisionist history on some of a lot of the weeks of both FanDuel and picks, I think we might find that agreeing with me is not such a bad thing.
Yeah, I think your mistake, Michael, was you didn't show up for that show. So you're an open target for me to take a shot at you. Say, you are going to show up for the next series of shows. Later this week, we're going to do a FanDuel show where we do a cash and a GPP lineup for Wild Card Weekend. And we're going to do that. I'm most excited about this show than any other show that we've done this year, maybe in history. We're going to do an NFL prediction show along with 4 of our fans.
We got Scott Beller, Laura Fasekis, who's been who's done a lot with us, Dave Legeski as well, and then 2245 Baconator.
Is that his legal name?
I hope not.
And then next week, we're going to do another FanDuel show for the divisional round. And we're going to do a live show. Mark your calendars, folks. Saturday, January 22nd, 1 hour before kickoff from the first game on that Saturday, we're going to do a show live.
A few games to talk about. And let's talk about your favorite, the Jacksonville Jaguars taking care of the Indianapolis Colts. Has that ever happened before, Eric?
Just slightly. Veteran FFC owners know that last year, not this year, but I'm still upset about it. Very first week, the Colts lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars and knocked me out of Survivor. I just don't get it. What curse does the Jaguars have? I mean, let's face it. The Jaguars are a terrible team. They are truly a terrible team. The Colts had everything to play for. A healthy Jonathan Taylor, and they just got crushed.
That's 6 games in a row that Jacksonville has beat Indianapolis at home. The Niners, I don't know how that happened in that game, but thankfully for the Rams, your Seahawks beat up on the Cardinals, who couldn't take care of business at home. These are losses at home by teams that needed to win against teams that really, to some extent didn't need to be there. And then how about the Steelers-Ravens game? I mean, those games alone, season worthy.
I have 2 comments. One, this is why the NFL is the best sport around, but also there's a lot of pride, and I have to be impressed that it's the old mantra we say in Survivor: any team can beat any team. And a lot of teams that have had tough years really came up big this week, even when they had incentives to lose. There are 2 games on Saturday, starting off with your Las Vegas Raiders, the 5th seed, traveling to Cincinnati. Tell me, honest appraisal, what do you think?
Well, we saw this game a few weeks ago where the Raiders went into Cincinnati and absolutely got their butts kicked. And after a very emotional Sunday night game, playing the early Saturday game, I think it's going to be tough. They lost one of their key defensive linemen, maybe 2 of them. We'll have to see. I think Max Crosby will be yet again a beast, and they'll make some adjustments. I've been so impressed with the Raiders' ability to handle their coach loss this year, able to handle, their number 1 pick from the prior year loss, another defensive player this year as well. It's been a really crazy year for the Raiders. You could see them, getting up for, one more emotional game. But man, I mean, Joe Burrow and company has been so impressive these last few weeks with the win over the Chiefs last week when it mattered. A couple of divisional wins earlier in the season, more recently. I just don't know how the Raiders can win this game. I'm going to go out there and root for my team. Wish it was in Las Vegas, but I think Cincinnati has the big edge. What do you think?
Well, look at this. I'm higher on your team than you are. This is a great matchup for the Raiders. This is why I actually do think it makes sense that the Raiders kick that field goal at the end. Think they have a much better chance against Cincinnati than the Chiefs. And a lot because this is a very young Cincinnati team. We've seen it with Josh Allen. We've seen it with Lamar Jackson, that sometimes it's taken a couple of years of playoff experience before they are able to progress. Later that same day, another AFC battle. It's New England, the 6th seed, at Buffalo, the 3 seed. I can't figure this New England team out. I'm pretty down on them. I don't think that they're as good as their record. I have a lot of respect, though, for Bill Belichick and game planning. But I think I do really like Buffalo's chances. But I need to do a little bit more research. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I've been watching Buffalo in some of their ups and downs all season. I'm big on Josh Allen. He's from the Central Valley like I am. He's got a big arm. They used the run today, which I think is going to be a big part of adjustment. You hit the nail on the head. Really, it's about Bill Belichick game planning to disrupt the Buffalo offense, which I think he will be able to do initially. But if the Buffalo can make the adjustments that they need to make, the New England offense just doesn't have the right power. You saw it today when the Dolphins kind of came at Mac Jones. He made mistakes, and he's in his first playoff appearance. They can't win by running the ball 117 times or whatever they did against Buffalo a few weeks ago, which was an interesting game plan. But given the weather, that might have been the right game plan. I just don't see that being the case again. This is Buffalo's to lose. The only way that doesn't happen is if there's turnovers and somehow they can't get poised after needing to make adjustments.
On Sunday, they are squeezing in 3 games.
Wow.
The first 2 are in the NFC. We have the 7th seeded Philadelphia Eagles. I'll be the first to admit I'm shocked that they made the playoffs. I thought they might finish, I think, last. I picked them in their division. So kudos to them. But I think it's going to stop this week going against Tampa Bay. It's amazing, this Tampa Bay offense. No Godwin, no Antonio Brown, but they just keep moving. They've got so many different weapons that they're able to just piece in that Tom Brady's been able to connect with. I think Gronk is going to be a big factor down the stretch for this team. I just cannot imagine a scenario where the Eagles pull out a win here.
Well, I think that the Eagles are just what the doctor ordered for the Buccaneers. I don't let today's game really distract you from the fact that the Bucs have had a really bit of a tough few weeks, the last few weeks, with their injuries, with some of the issues they've had in the defensive backfield. Yeah, they're one of the best teams against the run, but that's not necessarily the only way that the Eagles, do things. So, yeah, okay, you're right. Tom Brady and the Bucs have found a way to bring in other talent and do things to win games, and they should be able to do that against the Eagles. They're lucky they drew the Eagles, I think, because I think the Bucs are on their way down right now. The Eagles, on the other hand, were on the way up. They were 3-6 before making this run. Yeah, you can say that this last week was ugly against the Cowboys, but they didn't start anyone. In fact, if anyone got a bye this week, it was the Eagles. And so will they be able to take advantage of the rest? Maybe to some extent. I think Goddard's been huge, on the tight end. Devonta Smith had a great year. Jalen Hurts is a great quarterback, for college. But is he a great NFL quarterback? I don't know.
Did you just say Jalen Hurts is a great quarterback?
You must not have heard the rest of what I said. For college, he was a great quarterback for college.
Okay.
He has, yet to establish himself for the NFL. Tom Brady, on the other hand, has done that a few times, and I think he'll do that again. They should be able to take care of business.
Yeah, we'll see. I do. We're in the playoffs, and truly, any team can beat any other team. But if I had to pick one game that I was most confident, it would be this game that Tampa Bay will beat Philadelphia. talk about a game I'm not as confident with. You've got another NFC battle with 6-seeded San Francisco 49ers, one of 3 teams that made it to the to the playoffs in the NFC West. Who was the one team that didn't make it? Never mind. Traveling to the Dallas Cowboys, a Dallas Cowboys team that at times looked like the best team in the NFL and at times looked like they shouldn't be in the playoffs. So which team is going to show up? I have absolutely been impressed and see how important Dak Prescott is to this team. He is the real deal. And I think, yes, the Ezekiel Elliott is getting older, but with a combination of Elliott and Tony Pollard, I think that they have still a potent rushing attack. And, it's so tough that they lost Michael Gallup.
That is right.
I think that's going to hurt down the stretch. And this Niner team can be tough. Deebo Samuels is a true talent. I am really impressed what he can do if he just hits his hand on the ball, whether it's running in the backfield or catching passes.
Yeah, no, I think this is the most intriguing matchup of the week. The Niners had such an impressive comeback, including Garoppolo making some throws that we haven't historically seen him make. He did have some misses early in that game, but he was able to make the throws when he needed to late, and not necessarily only to his stars, right? They had Jennings come in and make a few plays towards the end of the game. So the Cowboys, they did get the second half off. The Niners will absolutely shut down Zeke, who has not been that impressive this year. You know why I think the Cowboys should win this game? It's their defense. Their defense is perhaps the best defense in the NFL. They got to rest their guys this week. I think that's a big deal. The Niners had to leave it all out on the field because they were down early. I think that's going to hurt them a little bit coming into this game. This is the Cowboys game to win. But I tell you, Kyle Shanahan, he put some really interesting things out on the field, which could be disruptive to the Cowboys defense. If they can put points on the board, which I'm questioning whether they can do that, the Niners could keep this game close.
All right. And the last game on Sunday could be the last game for Ben Roethlisberger. He and his Pittsburgh Steelers, as a 7th seed, travel to Kansas City. This is strange territory for Kansas City. They are used to having a bye in the first round, but they're going to need to play. This is the same Kansas City team that I think both you and I were extremely high on at the beginning of the season. And we have just seen frustration after frustration of what is going on with the team at the first half of the season. They have played better in the second half of the season. Do you think that they are returning to the form that we expected them to be at the beginning of the year?
They have, on the defensive side of the ball. They had such a rough start, really kind of following a rough year last year on the defensive side of the ball. And it looked like that was going to, really be their Achilles heel. And somehow they figured that out. And Pittsburgh just doesn't have a potent offense. I mean, Ben Roethlisberger's immobility is such an issue. I'm so impressed by Najee Harris and what he did coming back in this game, but he got a little beat up. And I didn't think he was going to come back or even play again this next week, which at the time, none of us thought was even a possibility for the Steelers. I don't see the Steelers putting points on against Kansas City. And even though Kansas City's offense has been a little bit hit or miss, especially early in the season, Patrick Mahomes is going to score some points. I would say this is even a bit more of a lock than that Bucs game.
Okay. All right. The very last game on Monday night features the 2 NFC West teams. 5th seeded Arizona Cardinals going up against the LA Rams. Both teams coming off losses in week 18. I have been very impressed with the Cardinals. They exceeded my expectations from the beginning of the year. The Rams were my Super Bowl winner pick at the beginning of the season. And I'm still thinking, they get that, they can just keep winning. They get a home field in the playoff in the Super Bowl this year. Talk to me about this game. What do you look for here?
Well, the Cardinals have had such a bad slide other than their nice win against the Cowboys last week. that before the end of that that Niner Rams game, I'd have said if the Rams could have gotten the Cardinals, that would have been a huge benefit. But the Rams have not stopped the run like you would think that they should. And the Cardinals were smart enough against the Cowboys to come out and run the ball behind Connor, and they did so very well. I think it was Edmonds, because Connor was maybe even out of the game. And if they can do that and use Kyler Murray's legs to create, I think there's a chance. But the loss of Hopkins has been so huge for the Cardinals. Even though their defense looked okay for moments in time, look what happened against the Seahawks in a game that if they would have won, they would have won the division.
Yeah.
And they were at home.
I think we've got 6 really good games. And I will say this, normally you'd say, wow, the team that gets a bye, which would be Tennessee in the AFC, they're just at a huge advantage. I think they are far from a lock, Tennessee, to getting to the Super Bowl. I think a very big factor is, will Derrick Henry be able to come back to get this extra week bye? And if he can come back, then I think they will become favorites in this AFC, if he's able to come back with any of his normal talent.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I mean, they kind of should, even though I think Devonta Foreman and others who've come in to help out with the run for Tennessee have been, serviceable. No one's like Derrick Henry. He's huge, but they do have AJ Brown and Julio Jones back, which I think is very helpful. That they played a factor in the game today, but they still almost coughed it up to Houston when they needed that win. So I agree with you. I don't think there's anyone that's a lock. I mean, the Packers are the one team who I think are really benefiting from that bye. I think it was smart of them to play their guys half the game today as well. So it's going to be really interesting. Like you said, this might be one of the most interesting playoffs we've had in a while. Usually there's one or two teams that are going to kind of have a couple of easy games, or at least one easy game in the playoffs. So
all right, listen to this and completely criticize me if you think I'm bonkers. I'm going to name all the teams that I think have a realistic chance to win the Super Bowl. Normally it'd be just like 2 teams, 3 or 4 teams. Okay, first, both of the teams that are on bye, Green Bay and Tennessee. I'm going to put Buffalo Bills in there if everything goes right. Got to pick the defending champs, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm going to throw the Dallas Cowboys in there because when we've seen them play really well, wow, there are not many of the teams that are better. I also am going to throw Kansas City in there, and I'm going to throw my team, the Rams, the one I picked from the beginning of the year. I don't know. I lost count, but that was a lot of teams. Anyone in there?
You didn't talk about Cincinnati as well, who's been super impressive the last few weeks as well. And so, the first, second-year quarterback coming after, an injury, I think it would be really tough to see that happen, to have several, wins week after week. But they've been perhaps the most impressive team going into the playoffs, sans today's game where they didn't actually put anybody out there.
Until we see you guys later this week, take care, be safe, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.